So, Kayise, welcome to Beyond the Box. It's such an honor to have you here with us to share your story of audience who are parents and experts and even educators at home.
Thank you for having me, Emma.
Yes, thank you. So, take us back to where it all started. What did becoming a mother feel?
Oh, frightening, scary. Because I was not planning on being a mother at
Uh-huh.
that time. I had always thought I would be a mother, but in terms of just the time and the specific way in which it happened, I think was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had been with my partner then for like 5 years, so we were pretty settled in our relationship. However, I had still had career ambitions that I thought I would first, try and achieve. Um, and then maybe, after some time, as a black modern woman,
Yeah.
I felt I had time. I felt I had the pleasure of being able to plan for it. But as life would happen, I didn't get to plan for it.
Uh-huh.
But I was very happy. Happy because I was in a very happy space. I was in a great relationship. I had just, achieved a milestone in my career where I had just, been thrust into the media space. And my partner was speaking marriage. So that also was, it felt like it was the right time, even though I
Absolutely.
didn't think it was the right time.
Yeah.
So everything else outside of me was working, with that, or, it was a positive sign that it was going to happen soon. And when I found out I was pregnant, I first cried. I guess maybe I was
Ah,
emotional. The hormones
absolutely.
maybe were also just a bit of a jitter there. But yeah, I was excited. And then, you move from that to fear, because it's the realization that very soon you're going to be responsible for a whole person, for another life outside of your own. And just having to understand and visualize what kind of a mother I would want to be, with the kind of partner that I had, who was an incredible father by the time. He had already had two kids, and so I was also comfortable with the fact that I was going into this journey with somebody who had some sort of experience.
Uh-huh.
Even though his kids were not living with us, but they would come. So I was quite supported,
Yeah.
and my family was very excited, because we soon got engaged,
Mm.
and it just felt like everything was working for my good. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. A very natural flow of
Very
things.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of move through the different phases, the
Yeah.
joy, the fear, the anxiety,
Yeah.
and then you finally accept, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like
Absolutely.
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like grief, but not a grief, of course, but just having to go through the flow of emotions,
The different
the
phases
different
of
phases.
which are natural. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, did you feel the pressure to get it right once you became a mom? And I don't know what right means
Mm.
to you.
Um, I didn't feel pressure to get it right, but I felt pressure to be the best that I could be. I guess I wouldn't know what getting it right would be because I had never been a mother. Of course, my first role model and reference of what a great mother would be is my own mother. And so I think maybe one could say that would be the pressure, but outside of my mom, no, because I always knew that motherhood is tough. Motherhood is beautiful. Motherhood is challenging. Motherhood is rewarding. Motherhood is fulfilling. And I, having experienced it through my mother's eyes and her own experiences, I knew that if I could be better, I certainly had to be better than her. And that would
Sure.
be quite a high bar,
Mm.
because I just thought my mom is an incredible mother. And she always tells me that she believes that she was born to be a mother. That's her calling, because she takes it so passionately, she takes it so seriously. She regards it as a life calling and her greatest blessing. And so I thought, okay,
Sure.
here's my number one, here's my competition. This is
Tough
who I
competition.
tough competition.
Yeah.
So outside of my mother, no, and some of my friends I think had kids at the time, and I admired how they were doing it. But certainly I understood that our journeys would be different. So my pressure came from wanting to be, the best mother that I could be.
Mm, mm. And not only did you feel the pressure. You had the advantage of having, one of the best experts in the field, being your mom,
Yeah,
because that would essentially be your advice as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, my mom, incredibly supportive in my pregnancy journey and in my postnatal journey as well. I remember, apart from my partner, she's the first person I told when I was pregnant, and I was very scared to tell her I was pregnant. And I wasn't young, but I think
Yeah.
from the Black community, it's not
It's a
an easy
mom,
conversation to
right?
have.
Like,
What do you
happening?
mean you're pregnant? But I mean, you're also engaged, so I
Yeah,
guess it's
yeah.
okay. But it was a
Uh-huh.
very awkward conversation. But I can tell you, once we settled into it, she was very excited. So when I would go to my gynae checkup, she would ask, "Did you see the baby? What did you think? Are you excited? Did you connect with the baby?" And she would even ask for scans if I'm happy to share. So she was a very big part of the journey. If I needed to go to work and have somebody drive me there towards the last stages and the last trimester, my mom was there. And just, I think, a week or two before, my due date, she moved in with us to help us prepare.
Sure.
She would massage my feet. Those last few days are tough.
They're very tough.
When you're like, when is
I
this
know.
baby
Like,
coming out? And
I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So very, very supportive. On the day my water broke at home, my mom and my husband and my mom were both there. And my labor became a bit complicated towards the end because my son was not dilating. I was not dilating. And so I had to have an emergency C-section. And so it was a question of who's going into the theater. Is it the mom or is it
Or
my
the
husband?
husband.
And then my mom was, mom,
Yeah.
she's very sweet. She doesn't take over. She's always a support.
Yeah.
And so she said gladly, the dad must go in. And, our beautiful son was born on the 27th of September, 2018. And my mom was home with us for the first 3 months,
Sure.
taking
That's
me
amazing.
through the journey, the first postnatal journey that every girl should have. Hopefully, if it's a privilege that you can be afforded, to have your mother go through that with you and help you understand and transition, because it's not easy at all.
Yeah. Transition into motherhood.
Absolutely.
And what I like about, I don't know, but I do know that in our African culture, it's quite common to have a mom there with you during your first few hours after after the child is born.
Yeah.
And as you say, in your case, 3 months.
Yeah.
Because that period is critical, not only for your recovery as a new mother, but as you say, to learn how you hold the baby.
I mean, I couldn't even give him his first bath.
Yeah,
We were in hospital for 3 days, and they didn't bath him. They said they don't bath the babies to keep the skin. I don't know what.
There's a science
There's
behind
a science behind that. They must keep that thick layer of the oil and And when we got home, and I just didn't know, am I gonna even break this baby? Am I gonna be able to hold him?
Yeah.
So she gave him the first bath. When he still has his umbilical cord, the sensitivity around that. I'm still healing from the C-section. So there's a lot of dynamics. And of course, my husband probably also would have never been able to handle it alone.
Absolutely.
Having just me and the new baby, and he still needs to make sure that life continues. There must be chores in the house that must be taken care of. So
when you can't bend,
I mean, my husband would cook, and him and my mom would exchange it. So I was incredibly supportive.
Let's move in. You have given birth now. You've got this tremendous support from both your husband, your mother, and I'm curious now what dreams and aspirations you had for your son that you would whisper to yourself in silence about what his future would look like.
And I wanted to raise a honorable man. I wanted to raise a man with integrity, a smart man, a loving man, a respectful man. I think I wanted to raise a man like my husband.
Wow, sure, beautiful words.
Because he was such an amazing reference and role model. He had, like I said, 2 kids. He had a girl and a boy, and his son was living with us before my son came, or our son came. And I remember thinking, man, you know, you're the best guy I could have had a child with, because you represent the kind of man that I want our son to be.
He was an amazing husband.
Amazing husband self. I mean, nobody's perfect.
No, nobody's perfect, but he was an amazing husband
But
for you to be able to carry those weights.
Absolutely, very amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, my husband would cook, he would clean, he would make sure the babies are bathed and put to bed. I think for the greater part, to have a support and a partnership like that, was the reason why, even though I thought it was not the right time, but I felt it was okay, because God had ordained it that way, because I don't think I would have found a better partner. Even if I had delayed it for whatever reason, and so I wanted a man who could also just maybe, I have had an absent father in my life. My father is alive and he's still, he's there, but we don't have unfortunately, we didn't get to have that relationship because my parents got divorced when I was quite young.
Yeah.
And when my mom got remarried and moved with us away from the Eastern Cape, and we came to live in Johannesburg and Pretoria, actually, I mean, I missed out on those formative years, even actually when I was still in the Eastern Cape, because divorce is nasty,
Messy.
It's very messy,
especially on the kids as
on
well.
the kids' side as well. And so that bond just never got to be solidified. Because I think in the midst of the trials and tribulations of the divorce, and then when maybe we could have had a chance after things had settled, when they were really now sure that the divorce is gone through, then we had to move with my mom's new family. Distance. And so I think my husband healed a big part of my daddy issues and my fatherhood wounds. And so I hoped that my son would be able to resemble him.
Powerful. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Sure. Your son would know that he had a great dad.
Oh, I make sure of it.
Yeah.
I keep him alive.
Yeah, you keep him alive.
I keep him alive.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, and I know maybe I'm drifting away from your question.
No, absolutely fine.
And I speak of my husband in the past tense because we were involved in a car accident when our son was 8 months old. And we were in hospital for. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And so we were in hospital for 2 weeks before he succumbed to his injuries, and he passed on. And it was a tragedy. A tragedy. I'm a new mom. Our son is 8 months old, and so I'm saying this one role model that I thought is going to be the person and the pillar whom my son can, emulate
as a father,
as a man, is gone. And so I think it just brings testament to the fact that we plan, but God has the ultimate master plan on our lives. And I've lived my life each day since then, making sure, going back to what you're saying, that I honor his father through him and to him,
and how you parent him,
and how I parent him, so that he also knows that even if I were to move on one day and have somebody who I hopefully know and pray will love him just as much, that his father was there. We know when Beyonce says, "I was here," that song.
Yeah, I know the song.
You know that
yeah,
song.
I know that song.
I was here.
Yeah.
He must know his father was here, and that he came through love, and that he was wanted, and he was loved, and he was appreciated for the short time that his father was around. So those are the values I think are important to me as I continue this journey of raising my son Tinashe 𝐊𝐚𝐲𝐢𝐬.
Tinashe 𝐊𝐿𝐴. That's the name we didn't have, but I know 𝐊𝐿𝐴. Wow.
Yeah, Tinashe is not known much because it was daddy's name. His dad was Shona, and 𝐊𝐿𝐴 is from my mom. 𝐊𝐿𝐴, meaning God's glory in 𝐶𝐻xhosa. But I guess the mother tongue overpowers.
Yeah,
he's left with
that's
me.
usually common.
Yeah,
right?
so 𝐊𝐴 it is.
Thank you for sharing that about 𝐊𝐴's dad, Tinashe's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, many parents talked about they talk about knowing as far as their children is concerned, and usually that knowing or a feeling that something is stirring up long before professionals or experts come in. What did that knowing feel like for you as far as 𝐊𝐴 is
Glad
concerned?
you've touched on that. Growing up, my mom, whether she'd be disciplining me or maybe comforting me if I'm upset about something, and maybe I'm not trying to let her know. Maybe a boy broke my heart. I don't know. But she would always start off by saying, Danam, no one knows you better. I get emotional when I think about it because I realized that she was constantly affirming to me that I am your number one. Like, we are one. You are I am the first being. You are the first being out of me. And so when you are not well, or when you are well, I know instinctively.
So powerful. That's so true.
Yeah. So my mom would always affirm to me that no one knows you better than me. So even if I'm lying to her, or if I'm happy, or I'm upset, whatever the feeling is, or whatever, the circumstance may be, but she would always tell me, I know. And so when I became a mother, I got to understand
what that
means.
Yeah.
Because motherhood is so deep. It is the most spiritual, I think, intriguing connection between human beings that God has created. To have somebody born on the inside of you. And I mean, I'm not taking away from the dads, they take part in creating these human beings, but there's just something that cannot be taken away from motherhood, where this person literally knows you from the inside and knows your heartbeat. And when they come out, there are inexplicable things that you are able to tell about them that nobody else can. That's God's superpower.
That is so deep. And that is so true. I mean, I'm thinking as you're speaking about the umbilical cord that gives the child the oxygen, right? To keep them alive.
So how can you not know somebody that you gave oxygen to?
Know?
How can you not know them?
Yeah.
You fed them for 9 months on the inside of you. And then when they come out, you are the first person that they see. You are the first person that they touch, they get connected to. And so that bond is unbreakable. Irrebreakable. I don't know.
And whatever
the word, first language just calls us.
Yeah.
But it's just unbreakable. And so that knowing for me, when my son turned, I think maybe he was about 18 months, he was about to turn 2. And so I looked at him and I thought, something is different. I don't know what it is. Something is definitely different about my child. And then I started to sort of now compare with my, my peers and other ladies, excuse me, whom had children sort of the same time that I had him. And I thought, it was a whisper. Oprah always says that. She says, life will give you whispers. And when you go, but you don't know what it's saying yet. But there's a gut, there's an instinct.
Which you need to listen.
Which you listen to. I mean, you must listen to, because it will never lie to you. It will never mislead you.
But it quiet down if you don't listen after a while.
Of course, because we're human beings. We ignore them.
Yeah.
And we think, oh, whatever. Or I'm being paranoid, or I'm being an overthinker, which I naturally am. And so this whisper kept coming as he was progressing, and milestones were coming. I mean, he started to. I remember when I came back from hospital after the car accident, he was. In fact, when I was in hospital, I was told he's starting to walk, because I think I left when we were in the accident. He started crawling. So when Dad was still around, he would
18 months. Sorry, at 8 months.
No, at 8 months. 9 months. So he was crawling, start to hang on to things, and like any baby.
Yeah.
And so when the accident happened and I was in hospital, I would get sent videos, and when he would come, my mom brought him eventually, because I was there for quite some time, because I still had to undergo some operations, and just the recovery journey, seeing therapists and stuff. So my son started to walk literally as I got back from hospital, and he started stepping and he started walking. That was normal. We were like, great, 9 months, good time.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. So the next thing we're looking at now is probably speaking, sitting up. He had already done that. Eye contact, following on instructions, those kind of things. And so they got delayed. It's almost as if he started, because I remember while I was actually still at home in recovery, and I think this must have been COVID, because he was born 2018, so 2019 the accident, 2020 beginning of that, which was COVID. He started saying mama, 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 and I thought, it's coming.
Oh, okay.
And then Nothing beyond that. Silence. You call him, he would not look at you. I call his name, he's looking elsewhere, everywhere. No focus, no connection, no eye contact.
Mm.
Um, you try play peekaboo, imitate games, he would not respond.
Mm.
Um, we moved from liquids, which would be the formula of the milk, because I was no longer breastfeeding. He wouldn't want to chew his food. Incredibly picky. And we made all his food at home. So I didn't buy, brands like the purities and stuff. So I decided to puree most of his
Oh,
food.
you were that amazing mom.
Granny as well.
Yeah, okay.
Once again, Granny was there to cook for him and blend his food. We tried everything, the sweet, the savory. This child would just refuse. In fact, he would want the food to go in and be soft and he wants to swallow. And so he'd almost choke when we started to introduce a little bit of solid and roughage and texture. And so there were these signs that I just didn't understand. And he was climbing on things, climbing, or flapping his hands. And he almost seemed like he was a fearless child who just never really, was frightened by anything, if I can say. He was constantly climbing. And so, I mean, that was the journey. And then I just started to read up on developmental challenges. And I just was, in fact, I had never heard the word autism except for the time that Toni Braxton years ago had said that her son was autistic.
Yes, I remember.
And because, we look up to, in my industry, I thought I was going to be a singer. So I used to look up to Toni Braxton and think, ooh, but she's got an autistic child. What does that mean? Yes, okay, maybe that means her child is disabled, but he doesn't look disabled. So what is autism? And now I'm a mom years later. Now I have to go read up on autism. And Asperger's.
And your point of reference is Tony's child.
Tony's child, referring back years when I was a child, thinking, what is it? It doesn't even affect me anyway. I just like her music, And then I started to read up on autism. And I think one of the things I read had a checklist where if doing this, tick, 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 if not, cross, cross, cross. And I realized my son was more on the tick, tick, ticks that could indicate an autism diagnosis.
You were not prompted by any specialist to do this research. You just got curious.
I guess, us modern moms are readers.
Yeah.
we how olden day moms, or our moms, in fact, always say, you guys parent by the book. We used to parent by instinct.
Yeah.
They didn't really read them. We are those moms. Social media, and, and like I said, I think even just having the influence of people that are, media personalities or other moms, within our spaces as well, that you can refer to for information. So yeah, I just read, and that led to me making the decision, because like I said, my mom was co-parenting with me. And so I said to my mom, I'm a little concerned about Zuko. I don't know what to be concerned, but I think let's take him to a pediatrician.
This now he's 18 months.
He's probably 18 months to 20, just before he turns 2.
Yeah.
So we're approaching 24 months. And I said to my mom, I don't know. It's just the gut feeling. And then she says, you're right. I didn't realize, but yeah, I'm also noticing. And I'm like, but how come he's also not saying anything? And I will be honest, because we were a grieving family at the time, he would sit in front of the TV for hours on end, because I would lock myself up in my room and cry for days on end. And so his nanny would, bath him, clean him up, give him food, and let him sit in front of the TV. And so he would watch repetitively the same thing. And I thought it's supposed to educate him,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I've got younger brothers, maybe even myself for that matter. I learned music and TV and, phonics and numbers through watching television. So I thought it was a good thing, because he's not yet at crèche or kindergarten. So that was what I thought would help. But then I realized that he also was just like sitting there blank at some point and not taking in anything. I thought, okay, I need to have him checked out.
Sure.
So I took that decision to take him to a pediatrician. The pediatrician referred us to a specialist, and that's what you would call a neurodevelopmental specialist, right?
Indeed.
Or neurodevelopmental pediatrician.
Yeah.
But one of those. And then they ran a few tests, and I mean that ranges from physical tests, hearing, audible tests, and I knew he was not. I mean, as a mom, like I said, there was a knowing. I kind of knew he's not deaf.
Yeah.
Because when music plays, he would.
He
dance.
was dancing.
He was dancing. So I knew he loved music, which he still does, by the way. But I'm his. I love music, and his dad loved music.
It's got your genetics.
He's got our genetics. Yeah. And physically, he was great. Like I said, he was climbing everything. So nothing there that I could also attest to. But you have to kind of go through the process because I'm just a mom. I'm not a clinician, so I wouldn't be able to diagnose. And so they did these number of tests, and then they said they want to put him on a program for 6 months where we are going to see an OT. We're going to see a speech and language therapist. We're going to they're going to work concurrently with the pediatrician or the neurodevelopmental one to write reports on his progression and their analysis of him and assessment. And then 6 months later, we got a diagnosis. Zuko was autistic.
Wow.
Or is autistic.
Sure. Within a period of 6 months.
Within about, like maybe 6 to 8 months, but definitely there. Somewhere.
Which I would say it's quite good to find out when your child is still young, because it becomes easier to apply interventions, unlike the people that find out when the child is older at a later stage. But thank you for sharing that. It's a bit cold and it's getting. Can you feel the cold?
I just want to say sorry that one of the interventions that I applied whilst running through those assessments and the diagnosis journey, I decided to take him to kindergarten because then I realized that these cartoons, they're not doing what I thought they would, and he's being raised alone. He's an only child because by then, like,
he needs the social element.
Social skills need to be worked on, and so I took him to kindergarten. But I shared these concerns with the kindergarten, and they were like, "Okay, no, let's give him a chance." Also, the other stereotype is that boys are slow.
Yeah, slower than girls.
Slower than girls.
Indeed.
So I was told, no, he's probably
just being a boy.
He's just being a boy. And so he would play. I'd get sent videos and pictures of him on the swings, on the jungle gym,
playing with the other kids or alone.
Alone. Yeah. And that indicated to them, and I mean, they would do assessments as well, termly or monthly. I can't remember now, but they also said he was going to, and I think an audible therapist or auditor also came in to do tests on the numbers, and they recommended that Zuko would probably be benefited from going to extra assessments. Okay. So concurrently, everything was happening, and then, like I said, eventually we came up with
the diagnosis. Yeah. And that must have been so relieving for you, because I'm wondering whether you had moments of doubt where you were doubting yourself about your own assessment of him during that process.
Relief is one part, but grief is another.
Yes. Yeah.
Relief in the sense that now I finally know what my suspicions were all about and the basis for them. And so now I needed to learn what autism is from a very personal point of view, because, like I said, I had first known it through a Tony Braxton, who is far-fetched from my reality in South Africa. And then I read up on it, which is still actually not as real as a lived experience, because it's still through what I can learn through a book or through the internet. And then having the reality of it. When you sit in that room as a mother, and you're told that your child is autistic, you have a rush of emotions going through you, and an entire mountain of questions. What does this mean? And so acceptance is far from it at that point.
Because you have to grieve.
We have to grieve because, like I said, I had a certain idea of what kind of child he would be. Societally, I also thought he would be a certain child, interact with other kids, speak to me about how he's feeling. I mean, thought I had a normal child.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I know
yeah.
now that I know there's neurotypical and neurodivergent, but I thought I was just gonna have a normal child.
Indeed.
Who was going to grow up,
Mm.
healthily and lovingly. Yeah.
It was a different story.
Very different.
Yeah. And I'm curious how that process was like, because we still meet the parents, sadly, that still struggle with the acceptance part. And I'm curious how you have gone through the acceptance journey during that process, how that was like.
Sure. I think first and foremost, I love
it. Without a doubt. With all the things you've expressed about your child so far, I can feel for sure that you have gone through the grieving process. You have accepted. You're beyond the acceptance phase because you're celebrating him, right? So, but I do know there are parents who are still struggling.
I'm going to share the journey, and I'm starting by saying I love my child because I would expect every parent to use that as a compass for how they navigate the journey, because love is the basis of it all. And if you allow love to be the anchor, even in your frustration, even in your uncertainty, even in your pain and your grief, but it's what will anchor you to want to accept your child for who they are.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember a time where I didn't want him. I just remember a time where I just didn't know
what to do.
Yeah. How to love him. I didn't know how to love him. And so I wanted to equip myself with how to love him. And that was the tough part, because then I had to recalibrate everything that I thought motherhood would be about and learn this person, because he had come into my world now. And it was very certain and apparent that I was going to have to adjust to becoming in his world now, because he is different to what I have known all my life. And so I went through it. I mean, there's really no other way.
There's no other way than going through it.
You have to go through it. You have to scream, shout, and cry to God, where, how. And if you ask why me, you can also ask that, I remember thinking, what more? I mean, what more? What more? What do you expect from me, God? And so my healing journey then began when I realized that it was not about why not me, but a question of rather how best you can be. Why not you? And I then began to I'm going through.
No. I'm kind of no. You're unpacking important points, because there are parents who are like me in going through the same process. Maybe they've just found out they have.
And there's you, then there's society.
Yes, which is what I want us to get to as well, about how did the society respond.
And I mean, it's your family immediately, and it's difficult to explain something that you also don't know to the next person. But I remember just saying, I mean, he soon started exuding hyperactivity, where he would be jumping all over the place, and when people are trying to speak to him, he is not responding. By the way, Zuko is non-verbal, he's non-speaking. So I would just say he's autistic. And when people would say, what does that mean? I'd say, please read up.
That's amazing. Oh, that's what we need. I think it's important. If you're a mom at home, I know some of us, when we're being asked, what's happening with your child, we feel very anxious. How do we respond to them? This is a beautiful way to respond. Please read up on it. Because by you having a community around you, reading up on it, it means you are actually empowering yourself, but as soldiers.
And maybe interpreting it in a way that you can understand.
Indeed.
Because I can sit here and try best explain it as I can. And remember, I have my own interpretation as well as a mother, because my lived experience is something you may not know. And I always know that experience is the best teacher. So read up on it, and when you want to come talk to me about what your understanding is, then we can have a conversation about what I think it is and what my lived experience is and how you can be a support in that. So that's where I would start it. Once I had gotten out of my shell, and I'll be honest, it was hard because I did feel judged. I did feel, prejudiced, because people just didn't understand this child who seemed like he was ill disciplined. So some people were like, why can't you put him on medication and cure it?
That's the danger of ignorance.
Yeah. So I had my outbursts because some people can take you there, but those who generally displayed concern and those people who displayed genuine curiosity and with love, because energy does not lie. It will tell you where this person is coming from.
That's right.
And so those people I would have empowered conversations with and also share what my journey would be as a mother who was going through this process.
Yeah, sure. Because some of the guests we've had here, their experience with community around them, immediate family members who don't really understand what neurodiversity is, they often respond in, as you say, judgmental way that can actually be very hurtful, and not only to the parents or to the mother, but also to the child, especially if they can hear and understand.
Absolutely.
And sometimes,
and that's a good thing that you're saying, that they
Yeah.
can hear and understand.
Yeah.
Because they're not down.
No, they're not.
No.
But in fact, I was going to say, even if they can't hear and understand, they can read. Because one
Human
parent said
nature
to us,
is so special.
yeah.
Sorry.
So communication is more than just words. So they look at you, and you looking at them with the energy you bring to them, they know, this is gonna cause damage to the child. So I think we kind of covered this one, Kayise, about the dreams and the hopes for Tinashe, for Zuko. And you covered some of them, but maybe if you don't mind, just to reiterate, what are some of those dreams and goals? Because we know a few of our parents talk about the dreams they have for their children, and how now, having found out that their child is different, they find it difficult, even though they've gone through the grieving process, they find it difficult to let go. Yeah, to reimagine those dreams.
Look, I think because I shared earlier that I thought, my husband was a great role model in terms of, the kind of values that I hoped my son would, emulate as well. But I think as a person, I wanted a child who would do well at school, who would speak well. I mean, I grew up, quite a verbally, my mom always say verbal diarrhea. I was always the kid who was like, she talks too much in class, and now I have a career out of it.
Out of it.
And that was the reason. So I wanted a child who would grow up to, become what he wanted to become. A child who would excel at whatever he chose to do with his life. I wanted a child that I could take to the best schools, so that he could be empowered on that journey to becoming. I wanted a child who, would be loving and kind and be an upstanding human being of society. And those things did not change. I will tell you, they still have not changed, because I then understood that by reframing my mind and my understanding of who he is, he's still all that and more. It's just that the world now needs to adjust to who he is and how he would portray all those values, those characteristics, and maybe even achievements in the way that he does.
That is so powerful, that you haven't divorced yourself from those dreams and aspirations. And I think you remind me of our dyslexia expert who talked about, I'm never gonna quit. I've got dreams about my child. And she put in the hard work needed to help her daughter, who is now developing towards becoming a self-advocate. So it, hopefully you'll get to watch and listen to this young girl talking about her story of empowerment and the odds that she defeated thanks to the hard work that mommy did behind the scene. What are some of the things that parents can do at home to still maintain those former dreams that they have, just like you have done, and support making sure that they can get to those dreams at some point?
So like I said, there's the journey, And then eventually when you get to acceptance, parent. Parent, like any parent should. Parenthood is stewardship, it's guidance, it's loving, it's discipline. You know, all these things that we've been entrusted with. So, I don't think we should change the dynamic of the foundation of parenting. Just parent in the way that your child needs you to parent, because each child is different anyway.
Yeah, whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent.
Absolutely. And so I always say, Uzuko for me, Dan, he's first a child, then he's a neurodivergent or child on the spectrum. And what do children need? They need love, they need support, they need care, they need a roof over their head, they need clothes, they need food. So those are the basics. So my responsibility is to make sure that he has those things. They need to be educated, they have a right to be educated, they have a right to be safe, you know. All those things that are enshrined in our Children's Act, you know, even from a South African constitutional point, you know, if I speak about them. But over and above that, I think it's important that parents at home create that safety net, that understanding that in here you are protected and this is how we cushion you, but out there, this is who you will be. And this is, you know, in context of who he is. And so it's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately. And we know that even with neurotypical children, we have to keep telling them the same thing over and over again until they get it right. So Uzuko, you know, I mean, at first it was tough to even take him out there because he behaves differently, and we spoke about behavioral science. And so if I walk into a restaurant with him and he starts, you know, wanting to go pick to people's tables, I'll go and apologize and I say, I'm sorry, my son is autistic. You know, I do apologize, and then most people would be so loving and accepting of that. So once you live in your truth, people will adjust and lean towards you when you do that, because then you no longer carry the burden. I'm right.
This is amazing, Kayise. I love what you're saying because, you know, in some of the previous episodes that we covered, parents are just overly worried and sensitive.
I've been there. You're tense, and you know, and I mean, I understand it's not easy to have a child who just misbehaves publicly. But where are you going to hide him? He's a human being.
He needs to be out there.
He needs to be out there. You're not going to hide him, and you're not going to keep him locked up in the house. I mean, we hear of the worst atrocious stories in disadvantaged communities with children who are, you know, presenting neurodivergent conditions, and they are locked up. Sometimes in conditions that are worse even for animals, you know. And so I said, I will never do that. I don't care how many stairs I get. It happens for a second, and then you know, it's liberation. And I tell you, even when I decided to speak publicly about it within, you know, the space that I work and operate in, the love and care and support was tremendous. And I realized I didn't have to carry the secret anymore. Where I was like, what are they going to do? Because it's eating away at me. The minute I said it, it was out there, and honey, the world can deal with it.
Wow, in the true sense of the host that she is. She's very light, as you can see. But what I take away from there, and I think this is a very important remark that Kayise has made, that you're holding on. What are they going to say, right? So as she
and
said,
you're not enjoying your
not
child.
enjoying life.
Or life.
Yeah, and maybe even you're burdening the child because you're always,
and it's spiritual. The more you hold them back, the more they're not going to progress. Because whether we believe it or not, neurodivergent children are also progressing, but in their own way. 3-year-old Zuko, when I've got a diagnosis, is definitely not about to be 7-year-old Zuko. He's different. He's grown. He's very aware. I mean, if he was here, you would see him lingering on me and kissing me and hugging. He knows he's loved. He knows he's wanted. And so if I held on to the pain and the shame and the humiliation, we would not be where we are. You know, so I'm a very present mother. I'm a very, you know, intentional mother. And I'm a very, you know, loving, because I understand that love liberates. And even in the school that I take them, I'm very, you know, present. School, Zuko's quite famous at that school, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because they followed me and they're like, no, he's no child to them. But like, he has his own path and his own life,
his own personality,
and mine is to let him go.
And I'm curious, Kayise, whether you needed to get some psychological support for you to have it together.
It's incredibly important.
Yeah.
On my show, After Dark with Kayise, and I'd also recommend or maybe even suggest and highly appreciate if people could tune into After Dark with Kayise, which is it's a podcast.
Where is it?
It's on YouTube podcast. I mean YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Okay.
And I have a conversation there with two autism moms. One is 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐿𝐿 who's ex Miss South Africa, and Rachel Tambo, who's married to Dali Tambo. You know, the Tambo family is quite well known in South Africa from their struggle.
Yes.
And one of the things that 𝐊𝐴𝐿𝐿 said on that episode is that what was the question actually? Because I want to remember.
The question is because I would like to believe you got there by yourself.
Says, when you get the diagnosis, honey, there's no time to grieve too much. Yes, understand it.
Yeah,
sit in it and be in the pain, but parallel to that, get your child the help they need. So either you get them in the right special needs school, because they cannot be in mainstream schools. They need teachers who are equipped to deal with them, and get them the interventions that they need, whether whatever your diagnosis says that they need, either it's OT, speech, whatever the intervention may be. Then parallel to that, you deal with it. So you basically are healing together.
Absolutely.
You're healing together, you're growing together. And that's what I did. When you said it in that podcast, I realized that that's exactly what I did. Because I realized that in order for me to show up as the best mom that I could be, I needed to be full. And I needed to go and understand the journey and how to recalibrate my grief into, a positive light for my child. So it all happened at the same time. Absolutely. And hence we're able to, what I mean? It's not like it's all dandy right now. Each day is different. Absolutely. Each phase is different. And new challenges. I have different challenges from what I had when he was 3. But my propensity and ability and capacity to understand what I'm dealing with is different from when I got the diagnosis or from when I didn't share the diagnosis. So I'm a different mother now because I also invested in my own healing.
So mothers or fathers invest.
Take responsibility
for it, because if you stay in that grieving process where you're not getting help, you're feeling sorry for yourself,
it's a bomb waiting to explode.
And you also won't be able to implement any effective strategies to support your child. Yeah. So I've got 3 more questions for you, and one, because it stems from what you've said about the fact that the child has to go to a special school, right? And there are parents, a lot of the parents that we work with, they've got their children going to a mainstream school, right? And obviously they've got challenges there because it's not special or dedicated support. What do you think of this? Because some people may say it's good to have the neurotypical and the neurodivergent together, which is something we do at our robotics workshop. We have learners that are on the spectrum and those that are not, working together. But what's your perspective before I tell you why we do it?
I love this question because as a parent, it's always been something that wasn't bothering me, but it was always sitting at the top of my mind that what is the best way to approach this. And I remember I said in the beginning, I took Zuko to a kindergarten, which was very like a normal mainstream, and that's where most of these things were picked up in conjunction with the assessment journey that we were on. And I didn't think that he was a misfit. Because he was so young that children need to discover who they are at that time anyway. So he was just a child doing his own thing amongst the other children. And I think, in fact, if anything, it was beneficial for him to have that interaction with other children and for them to have with him, by the way. And at the time, they're all children.
Indeed.
I mean, we're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. There's not much. There is much, but there's not much that they can say.
You look different.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, he's sitting alone there because he wants to sit alone.
Sit alone. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I think foundationally, whichever approach that if a parent feels that where they take their child, there's capacity to deal with him, especially if maybe he's not hurting other children, or from a safety point of view, or he's just not coping, or the teacher's not coping, I think it's okay in the beginning.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're also trying to figure out. It's when now, I think, when you have to kind of transition to what they would call, your grade R's, your grade zeros, grade R's, and leading up to, so early development is where I say. But I still took Zuko to early development special needs because that was a decision that I made based on his specific needs.
Absolutely. His specific needs.
because I wanted a school that would also have the in-house therapies, and so I could pay for that, built in the school fees, and maybe if you needed more, I actually.
That's actually very valuable because we had one parent, Kayise, who said, I'm not going to go into details with it because you'll get to watch it, who said she was called from work by mainstream the school teachers, come fetch your child is doing this and that. But not only that, you had to take time off to go see a therapist there. So there's an advantage to having your child in a school.
Those are the benefits.
All these things.
That's
are
what I'm
there.
saying. Each unique case is different, and you've got to judge it that way. And I would presume that it's a unified decision, given the fact that teachers are dealing with this child on an everyday basis. Or maybe they can even make recommendations for when they could even say that when he gets to a certain stage, we may think he may benefit from this. So it's not a one approach or an umbrella approach, but I think certainly for me it was good that I decided to take him out of the mainstream crèche and take him to a special needs, because I did realize that as he was growing older, he was actually presenting more of these of the symptoms of being on the spectrum, and I wanted him to get more attention, and then we could benefit from these in-house benefits of having these therapies there. So I think, like any journey of parenting, you have to always be intentional about watching your child's development, because I do believe that these children can also make a turnaround for themselves, and they could find themselves going to mainstream schools,
And yeah, I like that. I like that you say that, because you also get to listen to the other parents, and that's exactly what
it doesn't mean it's a lifetime thing. I know in the school that I've put 𝐊𝐴𝐲𝐽 in, they can go up until like vocational work, where they do training with them and kind of workplace them and stuff. And I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity and privilege to be able to do that. But I don't know what will happen in life. May I not afford it one day? I mean, there are public schools, and I know it's a tough journey for most of South Africans, who are not informed or maybe even able to afford. So government also needs to sort of up their support there. But certainly, each phase, each era in the child's life needs intentional planning, intentional, attention to make changes that are suitable for the family, for the school, for the child, for the community. It's not a one-sided approach.
Kayise, you talked about Zuko. You said if he was here, he would probably be touching you,
hugging me, kissing me,
making sure you
he's
know
not
you are
jumping all over
loved.
the place. Oh, yes.
Making sure that even though dad is not here, I love you. You are a constant reminder of somebody who shows up for me, right? And he does this in a non-verbal way. We had a speech therapist that talked about the power of connection. And she said this in explaining how effective communication, doesn't always happen because of words that are spoken. It's in the stares that you get. It's in the touch, that in the case of his warm touch that makes you feel that you're loved. What are some of the good qualities? And maybe while you're covering that, what are some of the good qualities that Zuko has? Some of his strengths that you really admire about him?
Where do I start?
Yeah, I'm sure there are many.
There are so many. My son is he's a superstar. To me, I think he's a superhuman being. And I know that some people are like, no, but autism is not a superpower. Yeah,
because they don't know. They don't know.
But I choose to see my child as an incredibly gifted child, because even though he's not able to articulate it verbally, he still understands the world around him, and so he's able to express, himself through other ways. And like I had said earlier, as you had also reiterated, that 𝐊𝐴𝐲𝐽, if I could just maybe try and think of a typical day when he wakes up in the morning, he will, he's almost like a switch. He's already like ready to go, and they routine people, right? So you wake up, and we've been recently potty training, and it took us some time as well. He's still on a nappy. He's about to turn 7, but it's our journey. And now, so we're doing the potty training. Sometimes we wake up and he goes sit on the toilet, and then he'll sing, ooh. Then when he gets up from the toilet, the First thing he does is to open the door into my room and to go check if I'm there. And then he jumps onto my bed to give me a good morning kiss. So his routine tells him that when I wake up, I go to the loo and I go see my mom and I greet my mom and I give her some love. And we have our cuddling 5-10 minutes. And then when he's done, he goes and he has his breakfast. So his strength now is also being able to feed himself, which we've been able to do through therapy sessions with the OT, because we've been able to develop those fine motor skills. And then now he knows what it means to sit at the table and have his breakfast by himself. And when he's done, he'll have his meds. And then he knows he's going back upstairs to go and have a bath. And now he knows I can take off my clothes by himself. So you say, Zuko, take off your pants. He knows how to do it. Get in the bath. So those are his strengths, like any child.
Amazing.
Like any child who is going through learning of life, of being self-sufficient. And then when he gets out his bath, he knows he's going to get dressed. And then when he's done, he knows to come pull me to say, Mommy,
it's time to go.
It's time to go.
Wow,
it's time to go. He grabs me by the hand.
This is amazing.
And by then I'm already probably dressed in my gym clothes, because I go to gym after dropping him at school. And he knows when he gets to the kitchen, his nanny would have made his lunch. He grabs his bag and he puts it on his back. And then we go into my garage. He opens the door. Are you going to say I don't have a normal child?
No, no. You have a normal child.
I have a normal child.
A very organized normal child, by the way.
Very organized. By the way, that's something I admire very much about autistic people. Extremely. I mean, it can be quite pedantic and tiring, because the minute we go out of it, he's just not having it. You're going to drive him mad.
Yeah.
But I find it incredibly enlightening to understand his world and to be able to be a part of his world. And like I said, he was full of love. When he gets out the car, when we get to school, there's always a hug and a kiss. When we get to class, he knows where to hang his bag, and I leave him with the teacher. So that is Zuko. He jumps. He's got a trampoline at home, just to
get the energy.
So he's also got a hammock, so all these things that I've had to make, a safe net for him.
Yeah.
He knows, so he's physically a healthy child. Those are strengths, and I thank God for that, because I don't have a sickly child. He would have a flu here and there like any child, but really I have a child who is loving, who is very aware. He picks up if I'm upset with him. He also knows that I give you that's there. That means I'm pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And I parent him like any child. I discipline him like any child. And I say, no, this is not happening. This is going to happen. So we work through that. And so yeah.
This is amazing, friends at home. As you can hear, we need to stop looking at our children from a lens of deficit. Because what it means is, if you look at your child through a lens of deficit, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, you're really robbing yourself from acknowledging the strengths that these children have. But more than that, to rob you from learning from them. Like you are learning from Zuko's structure, Zuko's ability to love,
and his pedanticness, that
paying attention to details.
Details. Nothing passes him by. Being able to be present without saying a word. And we're all like that, by the way. We have body language. When I got here, we shake hands. We look into. Those are all his other characteristics that I can build to learn about him, even with unspoken words.
I'm curious, have you kind of picked up what are some of the things that he likes to do? Does he like drawing? Does he like playing the garden?
Oh, okay. He loves music.
Okay.
So
clearly, because he sings in the morning.
He sings in the morning, and he sings when he's eating. When he's enjoying food, when it's he loves food, by the way. Okay. So we've gone from being a picky eater as a baby, as a toddler, to being an avid food lover. Loves his good food.
Sure,
healthy
this is amazing.
Boy. And so when he's enjoying a meal,
it comes from your blood, because you are a show business woman. So it comes through.
Yeah, he'll sing. Loves swimming, so he does. He's an avid great swimmer. I've picked that up. So we're going to do music lessons now. As the new term starts. What else? Doesn't really he gets bored very quickly with gadgets. I mean, I'm gonna keep buying them, but
it's not his thing.
It's not his thing. Yeah. That's on TV, but music. If you play music on TV, and you take him swimming, and you take him to jump, trampoline or whatever. So I think maybe playing is his thing. Gymnastics, I think there's a potential there for gymnastics, and just being outside, just the wide space for him to explore nature. He loves being out in nature.
He loves nature. Yeah. Sure. As you can see, our children are their own people. They've got their own personality. Who knows? Zuko might be the next gold medalist for South Africa in the swimming space, or maybe even in singing,
or maybe music. And
Yeah.
if it's music, mommy's gonna be his manager.
Watch out, people in the industry that are looking out. And this conversation, as we close it, Kayise, remind me of a mom who said, "I push boundaries for my daughter." This was Yolanda. "I push boundaries for Diana so that Diana can be exceptional in music, can be exceptional in academics. Everything that we have been told that we must know our expectations." And I refused. Literally, you remind me of her because you are pushing boundaries for your child. And that's because he needs it. Few years from now, you're going to be grateful you took the actions and the steps that you took to support him. Absolutely. He will thrive.
And I'm grateful that I've also been afforded a platform to be able to push boundaries for other moms, be a mouthpiece for other mothers who are navigating this journey. When I entered entertainment and media, it's always been my passion. That's what I knew I would do as a young little girl. If it was not law, but still in the same space. And I thought this was always going to be about me. I thought I was going to be a big TV star and, really end up in Hollywood or whatever and really climb the ladder of it all. And then I got to understand that this was about impact, so it means it's bigger than me.
Absolutely.
It's about being able to be put in positions to create change,
amplify the
voices. And so I push those boundaries now. I sit on the board of Autism South Africa, which I'm very grateful for. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. And so I'm able to understand from that lens. I mean, we have a national footprint, and we really service the people who don't have
the
resources. And because I've also, like I said, been given a platform, I use, my space to be able to advocate for children and for mothers and for even adults sometimes, because we're dealing with children who are going to one day have to be adults in this very, society that we are in. And so we need to create that pathway, the journey from here till now, so that it is inclusive for them. Or I also I had an opportunity earlier this year to sit the public dialogue and engagement for people, for the white paper that's going to be passed in Parliament for people living with disabilities.
And
so I was sitting within those engagements, and I got to understand, the challenges and maybe even the triumphs, of course, because there are some things that we can celebrate about people living with both physical and mental disabilities in our society. And so I'm pushing boundaries in that in that spectrum, in that aspect. But I also push boundaries certainly as a mother in my everyday life lived experience of being Zuko's mom. Yeah.
We appreciate people like you because the voices of parents who are raising children on the spectrum are very much silenced. And through the schooling system, if you get to hear some of the experiences, they shrink when they have to stand up for the child. They shrink within family.
And I understand. It's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah, and because you're met with people who have absolutely no idea what you're going through.
That's right.
No idea what what you're experiencing. But don't give up. Do whatever you have to do to go and find that confidence. I also didn't just become like this. I had to do the inner work on myself. But I decided that the day that I do become an advocate, or I do label myself in such a way, that I don't stop. Whenever I also feel discouraged, I will go to my corner, pick myself up, and go back out there and do what it is. Because it's a continuous journey. It's a continuous fight.
And I deeply appreciate your contribution to the white paper, because that's where we need the change to happen, right? And hopefully one day we'll get to talk about the triumphs that are there, which we don't always get to talk about. In most environments, people tend to focus on things that are not working versus the efforts that have been made. So hopefully we'll get to unpack some of those at some point. But I want to express my gratitude to you for taking time out of your very busy schedule as a businesswoman and to be here and share with our audience what the journey is like. And for sure, for every mom, every dad, the journey is different. But listening to your journey and your story help them realize that they're not alone. And isolate yourself.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
And I want to just say, I think I would just echo the same thing that we really never are alone. It's important that we live in the full awareness of understanding our specific journeys. Not all of us can be advocates, and that's also okay. Advocate for your own child and for your own personal story and situation is actually even in the small things. It's in asking the restaurant to please accommodate you. Your child is sensitive to light, and it's in those small things. It's not always in the big stages that I would probably have, or in these conversations that get to be broadcast onto platforms. Certainly, you, a parent, and being there for your child is already a job well done, and you need to thank yourself for that. You need to award yourself for that, and recognize that you are much further than you were before. So keep moving with that strength, and you got this.
Yeah. Before you do things, tell our audience how do they follow through? How do they follow you? How do they get to hear more of the Zuko story or your story or the work that you do? Where can they find you?
Okay, so social media, well, that would be Instagram, TikTok. Ooh, I'm not very TikToky. I just post my work there. And Facebook, it's all Kayise Ngula or Kayise_Ngula. Um, my After Dark with Kayise podcast, which is on YouTube and all podcast platforms. It's an incredible conversational platform that really explores human connection and the complexities that we have to navigate to find our own light after darkness. Um, so please do follow because that's my pride and joy. Canaan Media is my production company, and so we're producing so many more, inspired living, concepts and conversations that power different aspects of our lives, whether it's motherhood, it's careers, it's womanhood, relationships. I mean, life is so full. So yeah, man, find me on your socials, find me on your television screens when I get back. And yeah, keep a lookout for all the things that I'm doing. I also sit on the Autism South Africa board, so please do follow them as well if you're a neurodivergent or mom or parent really to a child on the spectrum. See some of the programs that we run and make sure that you keep watching there.
Thank you very much, Kayise. So that does it for us on the box with Emma.